Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Chris Folland, and I'm coming to you from, if you hear some cockerels in the background, don't be alarmed. I'm coming to you from Ubud, Bali in Indonesia. And I shouldn't say just good evening, because we've got people tuning in from all over the world today. So 8 p.m. in New Zealand would be 6 p.m., depending where you are in Australia. We've got people 10 o'clock in the morning in the Netherlands, the UK, and so welcome to you wherever you are in the world. I'm excited to welcome you to today's webinar, this morning's webinar, not the least of which I get to say some lovely things about my gorgeous wife. Tonight you'll be hearing from Jamieson-Folland. She's an osteopath, UK trained osteopath. She's known as the lifestyle owner. She's got over 27 years experience around the world, Europe, Asia, New Zealand, Australia, as a qualified osteopath. She's also an integrated nutrition health coach. And so she's on the leading edge of nutrition around the world. So the information that she's been studying flat tack for the last year, you'll get the benefit of learning that information for what is considered right now to be the leading edge at looking after your health. She's an educator, a writer. She's also a certified raw vegan gluten-free chef, which I have benefited a lot from. She's a speaker, health mentor, philanthropist. She has helped launch a foundation in New Zealand called the Together Foundation, which is a non-profit helping women who would like to start a business, don't have access to commercial lending, and she's put together a foundation to help these women get their lives on track with a business venture, and be that hairdressing, whatever manner of business that they want to start. And so I'm proud of her on a number of levels. I love her obviously deeply, but from the point of view of what you're going to be hearing tonight, you're going to be hearing from somebody who walks her talk. I've been side by side with her for more than 20 years. And so when you're spending that type of time with somebody, you get to know whether they're integrous about what they talk about. She'll share with you, no doubt, a story of her health journey so far. Doctors in the medical profession had her dead by 24. She didn't take medicine for the rest of her life. And she didn't want to go down that track. She didn't take the meds. And now we just celebrated her 50th the other day. And she's healthier and more vibrant than she was in her early 20s.
I think it's my 51st, actually.
51st, okay. So, so there you have it. You'll be hearing from somebody who is walking the talk in terms of their own health, helping people around the world with their health, and she's on the leading edge of study in this area too. So tonight's topic is energy, to be focused on productivity and do that in a natural way. So without any further introduction, let me pass you over to the lady herself.
Thank you so much, Chris. And I've got my earplugs in to, like I think Chris said, to reduce the background noise. Given that we are in rural Bali, it's very, very beautiful here. I'd love to take you on a little tour, but I know that I need to press on because there's actually a lot of information that I'm keen to be able to pack in to our brief time together now. And so, yes, what's this all about? What's the reason I do what I do? Well, it's inspired by a project called Project 1M, and that's to positively impact the lives of 1 million people, well, actually in excess of 1 million people. That's just the beginning worldwide. And so how do we do this? Well, we partner with people like many of you online, actually. I'm very, very blessed to call many of you partners. And through a cellular research company with whom I've partnered for the last 17 years, again, on the cutting, Chris talked about cutting edge, this company really is it. So to me, it's about partnering with those who know their stuff and also consulting both individually and with groups with these kinds of workshops. I'm very passionate about helping each of us to access information that can, really be a game changer, depending upon how it sits for us, depending upon what we choose to do with it always. With colleagues, integrative medical centres, schools. I'm very passionate about the next generation, and health retreats, both here in Bali and all over the place, actually. Health ambassadorships, and also through the Together Foundation, which we've actually just recently broadened to the Together community. And so what is it you need to know most tonight or this morning, depending upon where you are tuning in? Well, if you want to type in, I know the wonderful Mo, fabulous business partner, Mo Ryan, and also Chris, are helping to field questions. So if you have any questions, please do pop them into the chat. And when I prompt you to share, please do share in the chat. So it really helps us to make, research shows that it actually helps us to get more from the material, even if you're typing to yourself. It's not necessarily for others to read, but it can really help us think with the information. So who's here to learn about the best ways to be focused and productive? And go on, I dare you, type in. And who's looked at different approaches and found that not much necessarily has helped them so far? Or maybe it's just kind of helped to a certain extent, but not really been a kicker, and you're looking for the next step. And who's already found natural ways to help boost their focus and productivity? They're actually really working for them. So like I say, I do recommend that you type in your response to that. We're actually going to be covering 5 keys for being focused and productive and doing this in a natural way. I'm very passionate about this. We're going to be covering those 5 keys, and they're very easy to remember. Pop those in a little acronym for you called SHARP. And plus, we're going to cover a couple of bonus takeaways, all being well, if I can focus myself and really apply what I'm going to be teaching or sharing with you. Ideally, we'd cover more. At the end of the day, what I found is that the feedback I'm receiving, not only my own experience, but also from people, many people, hundreds of people, thousands actually over the years, is that to have just the nitty-gritty to be able to take away, so that you can actually take something away that you can use, rather than need to go back to your health source to be able to constantly cross-reference and ask questions non-stop, to be able to think for yourself and on your feet with principles rather than specifics constantly, or constant specifics. So who would like to actually have a healthier immune system, to be able to sleep better, to know that you're aging in a healthy way, to have better digestion and reach your ideal digestion and reach your ideal shape naturally? Well, if that's you for any of those topics, then there'll be more about that at the end, and we'll aim to leave you with resources. So Chris shared with you a little bit about my background. My vitality was very low as I grew up. I was quite sick as a child. I was just reflecting on this the other day with a recent health challenge for me that I'm just working on. And it had me reflect back and realize that actually I was on multiple doses of antibiotics, which sadly I hear a lot from many clients. I had constant migraines that would literally knock me out for 3 days. I couldn't eat, I couldn't do anything, I simply couldn't function for 3 whole days. I can remember that vividly. And those are things that my dad experienced also. That's him actually in the bottom left photo with me. I had asthma, I had irritable bowel syndrome, constant chronic sinus congestion. I caught every bug going, joint pains, period pain, etc. And then, as Chris said, when I was 21, my dad died very suddenly. My hero, the guy you see there in the image, I often feel teary when I think of him, because he's been such an inspiration for me in so many ways. And I believe that it was a gift for me. Obviously, I'm very, I'd love to have him here with me now, but it's a gift in many ways that his passing helped prompt me, because I was checked out. We discovered that I'd inherited similar health challenges, was given those 3 years to live. And, I believe medicine saves lives. It's as simple as that. When it comes to chronic degenerative disease, we need to be looking at the bigger picture. I was on about 15 coffees a day. I had big challenges to focus and study, and was relying on those coffees to help me do that. I was on a lazy vegetarian diet. I thought it was healthy because I was vegetarian. and about 20 kgs overweight. So I've turned things around since that time. Completely changed up my lifestyle, including exercise. You see me there, bottom right. That was my privilege of cycling 2,400 k's, the length of New Zealand, which we did in 24 days with that gentleman on the back of that tandem bike to raise funds for a charity focused on helping differently abled athletes to get into mainstream sport. And, you know, again, I'm sharing this story with you because you may be able to relate to some of my experience. I chose to go for low impact activities since that time, so things like cycling. Very excited that we just Chris bought me for my birthday this fabulous completely foldable bike which we've just brought back to Bali, and I'm extremely excited to go out on that each day on the funny old Balinese roads. Yoga become a very big part of my life, and I'm very passionate about helping to empower others through things like charity events. And you can see there on the crazy pictures. And that was our 50k walk that we did this year non-stop, and done the similar kind of route. Actually, Mo has helped out on that one, and so has Chris. 100k's non-stop, done that one a couple of times, and over this time developed a system that works. And I'm again blessed to work with clients all over the world, busy executives, parents, entrepreneurs, top athletes. I've noticed Karen's on there, an extraordinary athlete who's very much focused on making a difference. And it's a privilege to work with people like you, and also people who are really focused and motivated to have a med-free approach. And you know, I've really found that many of us are hungry for resources or what's the word, solutions that are based on science rather than fads, and rather than trendy quick fixes that kind of come and go, like, you know, burn brightly like Roman candles and then they're gone, and working with what's proven and works. And I'd love to share a couple of real quick stories. One is from Darren, and a busy executive, absolute hands-on dad, was traveling when we first started working together extensively between Auckland and Sydney. And his health goals included being more focused and productive, having the energy to do that whilst intensive training, reaching his ideal weight, and reducing his diabetes meds. He has made extraordinary progress even after the first 3 months. He's going strong. And he's actually having his meds reassessed by the doctor at the moment, writing his own book, and really promising blood tests as well as energy through the roof and training going very well. And then there's Kate, a dear childhood friend whom I've been blessed to know for about 36 years, plus from the UK, busy mum, insulin dependent and diabetic, had some major health challenges, low energy, etc., even breathless walking up a small hill. After 6 months, she's managed to reduce her meds. She can walk up several hills with no breathlessness. Her favourite jeans fitter. And for the first time in 20 years, she's been able to get back into volunteering in the community, which to me is like, she says, it's like getting her life back. She's a talented painter and she's getting back into that too. So this works. So what I invite you to do right now is that, you know, you probably know more than you realise. If you have to kind of stop and pause for a second and just think about, well, what do you believe might be able to help you? Not only with your energy, but that being available to help you be more focused and productive in any area of your life. What could a key or keys be to help you do that? So please, we don't have so much of a delay here, which is great, not like being on a Facebook Live, for example. So if you are open, please, just typing in now ideas that pop up for you that will help you to get the most from this webinar. And I'm not going to be able to pause too long here because, in fact, I'm not going to be able to pause at all because I really am very motivated to be able to get through as much of this as possible. So I promised you 5 keys, and they spell sharp. So the first S, well, the S is for secondary food. I'll explain more about that in a tick. H is for hydrate. Beautiful, you know, the so important water. A is keeping ourselves active. R is for good quality rest. P is for proven cellular nutrition. It's unlikely we'll have time for question and answers, but for those of you who are in the closed Facebook group, please do post your questions in there. You're welcome to post them in here, and Mo will copy paste those into that Facebook group. and sharing some resources with you at the end. And I need to give you a wee heads up. It is worth checking out the link that Mo will post at the end, because that puts you in the draw to win some goodies. Actually, it's value of $150. So stay tuned. It's worth being there till the end. Secondary foods. So if these are not primary foods, what are primary foods? Well, primary foods are the areas of our life that actually nourish us ultimately without necessarily putting something in our mouth. Those are the things that actually help us flourish. And that's things like rest, that we're going to be covering in a second. It's things like quality relationships, spiritual beliefs, exercise, which we're going to cover in a second. So the secondary food is actually what we eat. So these are some goodies that you can actually take away and start to maybe look at building into your diet, or embrace if you already are eating them. And these are based on what body and mind expert Dr. Deepak Chopra shares as being the most important ways to maintain our well-being. I'm going to cover a couple of those. This is one of them. And he also talks about making sure it's non-processed, reducing the refined sugar content, and also making it directly from the earth. And this means it will be rich in phytonutrients. So those are the vitamins and the minerals that we haven't actually yet named. We don't completely know what they are. So low GI. And ideally, if we were together, I'd be actually asking you to shout out, what is low GI? Well, low GI is low glycemic index. That basically means that the energy from that low GI food is released slowly into our bloodstream. That means we get more bang for our buck when it comes to the nutrients that we're taking in. They last longer, and they basically give us that afterburners energy. So what could examples of that be? Well, an example of a high GI food would be, say, for example, a rice cake. But we can lower that. We can lower the GI of that rice cake by putting a good source of fat and protein on it, like a nut butter or avocado even. And then we're after water-rich foods that don't take water from our body. They actually help with that hydration process. So those would be things like fruits and veggies that haven't been dehydrated. Things like dried, having whole figs rather than dried figs, having whole fruit rather than the dried fruit version would be an example of that. And soaking on the nuts and seeds that we eat rather than having roasted ones. So they'll be more water rich. Specifics when it comes to brain function, so neuronal function, blueberries are goodies. The flavonols that are rich in raw dark cacao and green tea. So having a little, having a block of dark chocolate each day is not just a treat, it's good for our brains, and they can help reduce age-related cognitive decline. Walnuts, think about how a walnut looks. It even looks like a brain, and they can increase our cognitive flexibility and decrease our processing time. And those avocados that I mentioned, good antioxidants and also good fats, the neurotropics. Actually goodies for our nervous system. Our gut microbiome, really there's so much research now that's being done on how our healthy guts can really help our brain function. So that's things like seaweeds, fermented foods, including kombucha, yogurts, etc. And knowing that less is more, actually. And making sure we've eaten what we need to, but not start overfilling ourselves. I used to eat beyond being full. And really it helps us to digest more effectively when we're not overstuffed. And making our own rather than having takeaways and then we know what's in it. Okay, so our second key is hydrating. Now, this is, I'm going to share with you an analogy and an idea. I'd love you to, if this is one thing that you take away, because hydration is so important in so many areas of our life, make it this. Okay, so our ability to keep ourselves hydrated and all of the systems that work to actually make sure that the fluid is flowing in our systems and we're able to evacuate what we need to is basically our waste disposal unit. And it's a little bit like if you imagine a toilet that doesn't have enough water in it. If you need to go and use that toilet, what's going to happen if you really need to use the toilet and you aren't actually able to flush it afterwards? Now, that's not a very nice image, is it? We actually had that when we were living out in the sticks, in a beautiful spot out in a place called Okura, just north of Auckland, and we would sometimes in very dry summers run out of water, so we'd need to use buckets from the swimming pool. But it was not, I think we had a family of about five staying with us once. We ran out of water. It's not pretty. So that is literally what happens in our bodies when we don't give ourselves enough water. It's like having a toilet that doesn't have enough water in it. It's crazy, right? And if we don't do that, what happens literally in our system is that our brain is not able to concentrate properly. We can get tired, irritable. We get hungry. We think we're hungry when in fact we're not. We're just thirsty. Literally constipation, headaches, dizziness, low blood pressure. Inflammation loves a system that is not hydrated properly. And inflammation is the root cause of all disease process, pretty much, in the body. So it's worth making sure we hydrate ourselves. How much? Around 1.5 litres a day, not trying to flush our system like, we're plumbing, but going according to need. And around 1.5 litres is usually it for the average adult. At 5 years old, about 5 to 6 cups. 11 years old, about 7 to 8 cups. We're starting to get up there with the cups once we're 11 years old and older. And I'll just drop to the bottom there. We need more, remember, if we're exercising heaps, eating salty or dry foods, we're in aircon, we're traveling, we're in a polluted environment, it can be really handy to give ourselves a phone reminder to remember to drink and also to measure it out at the beginning of the day. That has worked massively for many clients, rather than trying to remember, oh, how much have I drunk? Actually measure it out at the beginning of the day, and then you've drunk your amount that you're aiming for. And bear in mind that coffee, sodas, tea, it does not count as drinking fluid. It's drinking our water. Alrighty, moving swiftly along now to number 3. So number 3 is keeping active. This is our exercise. And as promised, this is another one of the top tips from Dr. Deepak Chopra. He talks also about yoga as being a very powerful way to exercise. But what this does is it helps to also regulate our nervous system. It tends to shift us back into our autonomic nervous system mode. Rather than being in our sympathetic mode, relying on our adrenals, it actually helps us to be more zen, if you like, and breathing. In yoga, this is called pranayama. And this is helping, again, deep breathing is a very powerful way to stimulate our autonomic nervous system. It needs to be something that we enjoy doing when it comes to our exercise and not hammering ourselves. What exercise literally does is it sparks our furnace so that we can be burning fuel, as well as doing things like releasing feel-good hormones like endorphins. And actually, the research when it comes to exercise is massive. It can help to increase our heart rate, but also help to regulate our heart rate. And bear in mind, if we're out for a brisk walk, which is a fabulous way to keep active, and it also means we don't have to be in the gym, we don't have to rely on, say, a bicycle. We can get out there and really get a bit of a welly on, so that you're not kind of dawdling along and it becomes challenging to have a conversation with someone, right? So you really want to get it going, and ideally a few hills chucked in there as well. Going earlier in the morning to avoid the fumes. That's certainly what I do here in Bali or anywhere in the world. And around 5 times a week, this actually creates this very powerful compound compound effect, which can really be our friend when it comes to long-term results from this as a tool for us. And like I said, I don't know if I mentioned, but I actually was knocked over by a car about 17 years ago now. Oh my gosh, it's a long time. And smashed up the left side of my body. I needed to have my knee reconstructed and learn to walk again. It was a very humbling time. I don't like being still. I like to be active. So that was pretty challenging. And that's the reason that I chose to go with low impact yoga, low impact exercise, including yoga. And that's partly because, as an osteopath practicing for 27 years in my practices and whatnot, I've often come across people who had the kind of road warriors with their running. Even though they'd had issues with their knees and their hips, they carried on running, and I saw what happened to bodies that do that. So I decided to hand in my running shoes back in 2002 and go for low impact options. And I'm very pleased that I did. And making it fun, doing stuff with the family, with friends, within the community can make things a lot more fun. All right, number 4 is rest. So that was the R in sharp. Now, we're all different, right? But if we can aim for between sort of 6 and 8 hours, this is ideal. And ideally, in an ideal world, and making this all the way through if we can, and finding ways that may be disturbing us to minimize those. And why would we bother? Well, our hormones work to a scale. It's not just hormones. If we look at our hormones, this actually helps us to regulate our circadian rhythm. So this is kind of like the sun up, sundown rhythm, which is very powerful for maintaining our body system in many ways, our health, and our core level. So for example, our cortisol, or our stress hormone, is regulated at midnight. So if we're having a late night and we're burning the candle, we never get to regulate our fight, flight, stress response. So sleep really helps us with this. It helps to build our energy and optimize our recovery if there's something that our body is dealing with. Lots of stress and poor sleep are actually linked with higher levels of morning cortisol, that's a stress hormone, decreased immunity, reduced work performance, so that's where it kicks into that, or keys into that focus and productivity, and a higher susceptibility to worry and actually depression, full-on depression and weight gain. And depression has been linked to one of the reasons that people actually perish younger. It's ideal to be to bed by 10 p.m. and to really establish that regular sleep-wake cycle. It's worth also mentioning at this point, when it comes to living in a more restful way in our lives, in a more peaceful way, is thinking about our mindset, thinking about what we might, I don't know about you, but I found myself sometimes calling myself a bit of a noo-noo if I've done something that kind of wasn't ideal. And it's like, oh, actually, I can reframe that. You know, one of my mentors, Dr. Dennis Waitley, he talks about the positive self-talks. It's like, oh, see, that wasn't like you, you know, okay, so I can make better choices next time, rather than labeling myself with something that may not be such a useful term. And look, also accepting and embracing that challenges happen. Someone who is just a constant source of inspiration for me with this is Chris. You know, the wheels falling off with something, and he's pretty cruisy about it. And that to me is where I'm heading for. You know, that's my goal. You know, at the end of the day, it's not so much the challenges that happen; it's how we handle them that count. You know, and we had a great example of this a couple of years ago when Chris and I, we actually, through circumstances, we were in a situation that meant that we were living apart, and we saw each other each month. That carried on for about 7 months. It was very, very challenging for me, almost a little teary when I think of it now. But we actually chose to work with a coach, and we shared this with our coach. We've been working with her for a little while, and she actually helped us with a way that we could turn this challenge into becoming a strength. And part of it was through a visualization. And that's why you'll see there just below this is meditation. This can really help with our allowing this inducement of a restful environment for us to really flourish. There's been a heck of a lot of research done into meditation, the way it can help to reduce our stress, inflammation, including autoimmune challenges in our body. So this has made a massive difference to me when it comes to my resilience, being frank with myself, but also for Chris and I, it was actually a real game changer when it came to becoming closer in our relationship. All right, number 5, moving along to number 5. So it looks like we're going to be going over a little bit beyond the half-hour promise. If you need to, don't be stressed about needing to hop off, because there will be the Zoom link available for this webinar that we'll be posting in that closed Facebook group, so that you'll be able to actually listen to this after the piece as well, and be able to kind of review the information. So proven cellular nutrition, this is an absolute game changer. This is something that I've been researching for about the last 17 years, ever since I was given a heads up by my mentor, who I chose way back then when I was 21, a couple of years ago, to help me with my health challenge. He's actually a medical doctor and medical herbalist. And he introduced me to the concept of working with supplements to help in a natural way rather than those pharmaceuticals. So that the important thing here to understand is that cellular nutrition is key. Those phytochemicals I mentioned earlier, the vitamins, the minerals, the cofactors, the enzymes, etc. These are so important for all our body functions, but in particular to help counteract cellular damage. You know, our cells are being damaged all the time just simply by breathing, by exercising. You know, this is good for us, but it's like, gosh, it's not good for us too. So we can actually regulate this process. It's the thing that ages us, literally. It's just the same as if we cut an apple and it goes brown. This is actually the reason that people are perishing too early is because of this damage to our cells. And that might be, you sometimes hear of someone who's, a runner, for heaven's sake, and they die. It's because there's a buildup of this damage in cells. At the end, like I say, at the end of the day, it's something that has us look older. Who wants to look older? Well, none of us, I'm sure. So it's the antioxidants that help reduce the impact of this aging process, this damage to our cells. And if we go back to the apple that we talked about cutting, slicing open, when we actually pour lemon juice on the apple that we've just sliced open, it reduces the going brown aspect of that apple. It will eventually go brown. Everything's going to die eventually. However, it reduces the amount of it and also how fast it goes brown. So we can have an impact on that damage. The big challenge is that when it comes, we know ideally we're going to eat as well as we possibly can. Our fruits and veggies, our parents were right. The challenges these days is that the soil quality is not the best. The foods are often sprayed, they're harvested too early, then we boil them and nuke them and peel them and fry them before they get into our tummies. Plus, many people have challenges with irritable bowel these days, with gut malabsorption issues. So a lot of people aren't actually getting the goodies, even if they're there in the food that they eat. And this has actually been seen as the missing link, this micronutrition for ourselves. Over 80 diseases these days, that's 80, not 18, diseases have been linked to these gaps in our nutrition. It's not because people are picky eaters these days. Some people are, but not everybody is. So watch out for some upcoming webinars actually on areas when it comes to the degenerative disease side of things that I'm very passionate about, making sure that we're empowered. We're looking at a situation these days where 1 in 3 kids born in the year 2000 and onwards are actually going to develop type 2 diabetes. This is a horrible reality. It's the first generation that's predicted of kids today. First generation that's predicted to parents are predicted to outlive their kids. That's not right. And it's the reason that the Journal of the American Medical Association are recommending micronutrients as being a wise choice for every person to be accessing good nutritionals. So what are some of the specifics here? What are we talking about? Well, the ideal full gamut of antioxidants and minerals needed that have been proven by working with human cells to actually counteract that damage and support all body functions. So we're not talking about something that's been produced by a marketing company wanting to sell you something. It needs to be science that's behind it, and it needs to be cutting edge and constantly growing. We need our omega-3s. They're not only important for brain health, plus joints and heart and skin. We've got ginkgo biloba. This has been linked with increasing blood flow to our brains, can also help with increasing our memory and focus. We've got L-carnitine, which can help improve our alertness and memory and age-related memory loss. I see Andrew actually is linking in with us today, Andrew and Sarah. Andrew's an awesome partner who is actually a pharmacist who was speaking about this. I found it really inspiring the other night on the webcast. It was great. So thank you so much for that, Andrew. And also rhodiola. This has been linked to reducing fatigue and linked with improved brain function. And actually a great example of combo of L-carnitine and rhodiola. If you'd like to hear about that, it's got a healthy caffeine source in it. It's low GI and it's ideal for those of us who exercise. Please do ask the person who invited you on to this webinar, because there's a really great option there that I certainly love tapping into every day. And of course there's resveratrol, which is linked to maintaining a healthy hippocampus, which is the area of the brain linked to memory. All right, so how do we select a good one? Because there are so many different options out there. I can remember being really confused. Well, the first thing is to go with technology that's actually tapping into our body's innate intelligence, our body's own ability to create its own antioxidants, which it can do. So yes, we need to be eating as well as we can. When we do that or take a vitamin, it can give us, for one antioxidant that we take in from our food or from some kind of supplement, it can help us neutralize one of those bad guys that causes this inflammation. So the bad guys are things called free radicals. They're the things that cause the damage in our cells. So we want to stop those, and that's what the antioxidants do. They're what stop that apple going brown. Remember, that's like the lemon juice. So we can take them in, and that's fine. But when you create, your genius body creates its own. For every one that you manufacture inside your own body that's unique to you, it can neutralize between 100 and 1,000 of those free radicals. So, it's a loaded question, but would you rather take it or make it in your own cells? Well, it's a loaded question. So tap into, for heaven's sake, tap into a nutritional that helps you access that technology. Needs to be pharmaceutical grade. Do not take any risks for you and your family, and that's the only way to make sure that you're doing that. It needs to have the potency, the uniformity, and it needs to be able to disintegrate in your body. Believe it or not, many nurses actually call vitamins bedpan bullets because they come out the other end for many patients into the bedpan, even with the name still printed on them. So they need to be certified that they will actually disintegrate within 20 minutes in your body. They need to be independently assessed and guaranteed for the quality, and of course affordable. So if you have a question about any of those, you're welcome to please obviously message the person who invited you to this webinar, because they'll be able to fill you in with some information. But also you're welcome to message me. I'd be delighted to help. So I promised you some bonus takeaways. I said a bonus takeaway originally, but I couldn't help myself. There are several here. So productivity, a key here that's often overlooked, I promise this to you, is the idea of time management. It's a fallacy. I would replace it by, I invite you to consider replacing time management with prioritization. That's what I did. I quit attempting to manage my time or manage people. Because it's actually, I've realized that it's actually about, we tend to do things that are important to us. We tend to get those things done, right? And those are, if we were to tap into things that we value in our lives and our goals, and we were to set what we're going to do that day based on those, my gosh, watch what happens if you decide to take that on. And I dare you, I challenge you to take that on. So when you're thinking about what is it that I need to do today, thinking about, okay, so what's important to me in my life? Is it relationships? Is it reaching some lifestyle goals when it comes to maybe health, financial goals? What is it that I know I need to do to help me with that today? And then make sure that happens, and to think about that the night before. And to action that, to be ready to go the next day. And actually overnight, it means that your genius mind can be thinking about it overnight. The other thing is tapping into something called Einstein time. This is something that Chris spoke about on the Alive with Fee that we did earlier today. As our resident financial expert, he talked about the Einstein time. This was coined by Gay Hendricks in his enormously good book, The Big Leap. I read that on its fifth go earlier this year, relished it. Plus playing a movie in our own mind. Okay, so a preview of coming attractions. What is it that I do choose to see happen rather than, oh no, dreading something that's coming up? For me, I've just been thinking about speaking and connecting with you today and getting excited about it. Sure, I could do a whole bunch of nervous, but at the end of the day, I saw myself being excited speaking to you, and here I am doing just that. I feel privileged to have this time with you and to share some ideas that they've been game changers for me and so many clients. Another one is mind-freeness time. Often talk about mindful, be mindful. I believe our minds are full already. So what if we were to actually give our brains a little bit of space and have a little bit of space for meditation, or call it whatever you will, just to create time to maybe focus on your breathing and allow that freeness of space in your mind. And also multitasking. It's a fallacy that multitasking is our friend. Multitasking makes us stupid. I recommend that you quit it. It's overrated. You have nothing to lose and only to gain by having a go at these suggestions. And a last thought, when it comes to being focused and productive, it's not just about those things. The balance lies in our hands. And this is something that I picked up from the course. Very inspiring thought from a gentleman called Dr. David Katz, and he's a lifestyle medical doctor. And he's actually done the research, and he's shown, this is what he spent his life doing. It's showing that 80% of chronic degenerative disease is actually caused by what we do with our feet, our forks, and our fingers. So besides hydrating and that interesting loo analogy I gave you earlier, waste disposal unit, this would be your second takeaway to mark on the inside of your mind, because it's a game changer. we've talked about what we do with our feet, so that's the exercise. With our forks, that's the secondary food, and our fingers, so smoking. He said that those are the three things that have been linked to 80% of chronic degenerative diseases, the choices that we make with those. It's not just cold stats. So this is very common. You know, who do you know who's being affected by degenerative disease? This is something I'm very passionate about. And in fact, who do you know who's somebody who really wants to keep their brain sharp and maintain their brain health and be able to be focused and productive as long term, all the way up until they're 100 or so and beyond, you know, reaching our life capacity of 120. So we have galloped through those 5 keys to be productivity focused. S for secondary food, H for hydrated, A for active, R for rest, and P for proven cellular nutrition, and those bonus takeaways. And we've created that strong foundation. So if you thought earlier that, okay, well, I'm interested in having a healthier immune system, sleeping better, aging in a healthy way, having better digestion, and reaching my ideal shape naturally, you get the opportunity to have your dibs in asking for those shortly, because Mo will be posting a link for your feedback. Now, just before she does that, I want you to just pause for 1 minute now, respecting your time that we have gone 11 minutes over, just pausing for a minute, close your eyes and think about what you've learned. And this is the kicker right now, to help you maximize the 40 minutes that you've just invested in yourself and your health, not only for you, but what you may be able to pay forward to others, because it's all very well to know it for ourselves, but it's what we do with it that counts. And so what I'm going to invite you to do is to jot down now, real quick, in your phone, on a bit of paper if you've got it handy, in your laptop if you're in your laptop or your iPad, is the three main takeaways that you picked up. And the one thing that you're going to do, keep it doable, keep it simple. One thing, it might be measuring out how much water you're going to drink at the beginning of the day, your 1.5 liters, then you know you're on track. Or even making sure that you have 500 mils of that before you get out of bed. Why not? Then you know you're ahead of the game. Something that Chris does is he has a liter of water before he gets out of bed. He knows he's ahead. So again, I challenge you, I dare you to type in and be seen what it is that you've picked up as your 3 main things and one action that you're going to be taking. So that feedback form, I really recommend that you fill that out. It's actually just simply an online survey. And thank you again, Karen, for the tip on doing a Survey Monkey. So there's the link for that right there, which the wonderful Mo actually managed to get sorted. So thank you so much, Mo, in time. So please do just click on that link, and it's very simple and straightforward. Mo's done it beautifully. You just fill in your details and that puts you in the draw. We need to have you fill that out by 8 a.m. New Zealand time tomorrow. So that's 10 a.m. Australian time. That's something like 9 p.m. UK time. That puts you in the draw to win a complimentary lifestyle alignment session with me that's valued at 150 US. And this will help, we'll be able to go through together just in that intimate, private time, one-on-one, where you get to think about what it is, and we work together on what you need to be doing to actually take the next steps towards your personal health goals. On that form also, you'll see that it refers to an ebook that I've created. I'm very passionate. It came from doing some workshops at schools. There was great demand. What can we have kids eat that's tasty, it's low GI, and it's great on low inflammation and recipes, low food allergies? Please just, again, just tick that option if that's something that interests you. We can send you the link. It's on Amazon. Workshops, again, also we talked about, please do click the ones that you're interested in. There's a whole battery of items there, topics there. And if you've got an idea of one that you'd like to learn more about and it's not there on that list, by all means, type it in. Please do keep in contact. You'll see my email there. You'll also see on that feedback sheet, you can dibs in for some regular healthy tips updates, and it also gives you a heads up of things like the events like today that's happening. Yay! So you'll also, if you're a Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or Pinterest or LinkedIn person, you'll be able to find us there as well. So a huge thanks to Mo, and thank you, Chris, for your kind words at the beginning. The big thanks to you, Mo, for organising this event. You're a legend. Really appreciate you. So it's been such a pleasure having you all to myself. over this last 45 minutes or so. And I'm really looking forward to hearing from you. If you have any questions, always a pleasure to connect. We'll see you on that Facebook page, on that Coast Facebook page again for any more questions. And thanks again to Mo for any questions that have popped up here, to copy and paste those on, so we can make sure that those go into that Facebook group. So wonderful to see you on. Pleasure to have this time with you now. And yay, looking forward to connecting with you more. And ciao for now. Bye.